But outproducing the enemy was just as important as outfighting them. Winning an industrial war meant winning industrially. And so the human dynamo, Lloyd George, now asked for the toughest job in politics, sorting out old-fashioned British industry to make more weapons. He built 50 new munitions factories. The largest was here at Gretna in Scotland. These ruined power stations are all that remain now. But in its day, this was the largest factory in the world. It employed 30,000 people and stretched out over an area of 9 miles. And into his new factories, Lloyd George poured a new workforce. With so many men away fighting, he turned to women. And they flocked into the new jobs. Bus conductors, farm workers, shipyard workers, and 700,000 of them became munitionettes, working in the new munitions factories, which were very dangerous. Explosions, TNT poisoning killed more than 100 women. Many more found their teeth fell out or they turned yellow. They were called canaries. But there were less toxic changes for the new workers too. Women started to cut their hair shorter. They wore simpler clothing. They learned to smoke cigarettes. They learned about condoms. Among the many casualties of the Great War was the Edwardian woman. As munitions minister, Lloyd George was a phenomenal success. Within a year, the manufacture of heavy guns was up by over 1,000%. Lloyd George was also sketching out a blueprint for a more modern, fairer Britain. He extended welfare help for munitions workers and their families, providing new houses and flats and feeding them in canteens. Lloyd George chewed over the strange thought that the manufacturing of weapons of destruction was humanizing industry. And if you're looking for the real origins of the welfare state, they can be seen most clearly in what Lloyd George was up to in places like Gretna in 1916. A whole new town was created here to service the factory, with shops, a cinema, and a social hall. To encourage production, Lloyd George introduced British summertime in May 1916. We've had it ever since. Lloyd George was very worried about the amount munition workers were drinking. And so the state started to take over some pubs, including this one. He banned all-day drinking. That's where pub opening hours come from. He banned the buying of rounds. And yes, he watered the workers' beer. And it wasn't just the workers. Lloyd George wanted leading figures in the country to give up alcohol for the duration of the war, to set an example. And when he heard that the cabinet had agreed to do so, the king reluctantly gave up drink himself. As for the cabinet, they weaseled out. Politicians, eh?